Troy, do you have distractions in your life?
Oh, yes. Almost every day, it seems like there's something that will get my attention. So,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Distractions, there's some things that we can get rid of in this life, and
Uh-huh.
that's just not one of them.
That's true.
That's not one of them. There'll always be something
Hmm.
that can pull your attention away from your focus,
Hmm.
what you need to be focusing on, and that's just really all it is.
All right.
Sometimes you might consider something to be a good distraction, but nonetheless, a distraction has a negative connotation on it all times, no matter what it is. It's pulling your focus away from what you need to be doing,
Hmm.
what you need to be assuring yourself of. So, our question today is, how can we draw close to God? How can we draw closer to
Mm.
God as well as limit our distractions or remove our distractions?
Well, what a great heartfelt question, because
Yeah,
that sounds like it's coming from someone who wants to be
better.
more godly.
Yeah.
And so, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is the Beatitudes, when Jesus was
Mhm.
talking about, you want to be a citizen in his kingdom. These are the things that you need to do. And the one that stands out for me is verse 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst
Thirst.
for righteousness, for they shall be filled. And so, really, that's what it boils down to. It begins, if you want to be closer to God, it begins with your desire, it begins with you wanting to be filled. And that's not the only time you see that action taking place. Another one of my favorite verses connected to that is Ephesians chapter 3, verse 19. It says, to know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God.
Mm.
There's other passages like in Philippians 1:11 that talks about being filled with what the Spirit provides. So, having said all that, that means that if you want to be closer to God, well, you need to get into His Word. You need to thirst and hunger for righteousness and get into His Word.
Absolutely. And those are all great points. And to add to it, I think that, in the process of us moving closer to God, there's a text that helps us to understand that we can do both of these things simultaneously.
Okay.
And that's James chapter 4.
Oh.
James chapter 4 and verses 6 through 8.
Mhm.
Do you see that it says that God resists the proud,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he gives grace unto the humble, unto those who are lowly. And so it lets us know, okay, God is, well, first you have to humble yourself.
Hmm.
And then if we're going to get closer to God, you have to have a humble spirit. You have to be a humble individual. And then in the next verse, verse number 7, it tells us that we all have to submit ourselves to God. Okay. So you don't reap the benefits and the blessings unless you submit to God. And then you must resist the devil and he will flee from you. So it lets us know that, okay, in your submission to God, will you be able to draw closer to him? Verse number 8, draw nigh to God. He'll draw nigh to you.
Right.
And so in your connection and drawing your close relationship with God, will you then further and put distance between you and Satan? Because God
Mm.
is the one who's able to give us the resistance.
Mm.
And we resist him, as Ephesians chapter 6, verse 11 tells us, to put on the whole armor of God that you may be
Hmm.
able to resist the wiles of the devil.
Hmm.
So we can't resist him unless that we draw closer to God and put his armor on.
Wow.
So it helps us to do both things at one time. If we draw closer to God, we further ourselves away from distractions, which is ultimately a device of Satan.
Wow. Amen. Amen.